But let me cover now one more subject under communication, and this is called the art of persuasion. Something interesting to keep in mind, and that is, there is a difference between presentation and persuasion. First you learn to make a presentation, then you learn the art of persuasion. Because I got a little faked out on this at first. Right, when I first got in sales, Mr. Schoaf got me involved in sales first. He got me involved in home building and land development and manufacturing and all kinds of things. Schoaf was an entrepreneur. He did a lot of things. One of the tips he gave me was, find a unique person and build a company around them, instead of starting a company and trying to find somebody unique. I've tried it both ways, right? And he had a lot of tips. But he got me in sales. He said, look, try sales for a while because you'll learn more about human behavior in sales than anywhere else. You'll run into this incredible variety of people. And he said, you'll just learn. It's worth a university education to get in sales. Talk to people from all walks of life, people with all kinds of problems, happy people and sad people, people that don't need any help, people need lots of help. Just get out there and see the people. He said, you'll get educated about human behavior and life and what's going on, how to identify. Just find out about life by getting out there and mixing it up in sales. And I found out he was right. And he gave me this great hope. He said, you know, most people are nice. In fact, he said, there's only about a half a dozen real nasty, horrible, miserable people in the world. That's what he said. Now, he said they move around a lot. And you're liable to run into one once in a while. But he said, hey, look, most people are nice. You're going to have a great time out there. Get out there and see what life is all about. So I got this incredible education in sales. But he gave me this, you know, how to make a good presentation. And I got pretty good at it. In fact, I used to hear people say, hey, you got to be one of the world's great salesmen. I thought, wow, the man has taught me well. Somebody else would say, hey, I've heard them all. You got to be one of the best. I thought, I've got it made. And then one day, the awful truth dawned on me. I said, wait a minute, something's wrong. If I'm one of the world's great salesmen, how come they ain't buying? I was getting faked out. See, I was being congratulated for my presentation. I had yet to master the art of persuasion. So there's a difference between presentation and persuasion. There were two great orators of antiquity. One was Cicero. He was Roman. The other one was Demosthenes. He was Greek. And they were both great orators, great speakers. But it was said of Cicero, when he spoke, everybody said, what a great speech. It was said of Demosthenes, when he spoke, everybody said, let us march. And that's the difference between presentation and persuasion. And if you haven't picked up this phrase yet, now's the time to put it here. Results is the name of the game. If I can persuade you for results. Some people teach for others to learn. Some people teach for others to use. Hopefully I fall in the latter category. I don't want to know you're great on this stuff 6 months from now. I want to read your bank balance 6 months from now. Your style, your language, the changes, the results, tangible, intangible, progress, steps. See, that's what it's all about. Results is the name of the game. And here's the art of persuasion. Let me give you a few simple keys to remember in learning the art of persuasion. First of all, become a good storyteller. It's one of the best ways to persuade is to use stories. Jesus, master teacher, was the great storyteller of all time. He said the kingdom of heaven is like a man, it's like a woman, it's like this. Always telling a story. Human stories to illustrate what you're trying to get across. So become a good storyteller. Now, to be a good storyteller, you got to collect stories. It's one of the reasons for your journal. Okay? It's one of the reasons for your journal is to collect stories. Just don't miss any of the stories that can help you. You just keep this handy and just jot down little things that come your way so you don't miss them. I was in San Diego one time. Doesn't have the date on here, but I wrote, Richard Pryor finally made enough money to get the stuff that almost killed him. He was working with some expensive stuff. Hopefully he's survived it all. But just gather up the stories. If I had some right handy here, I'd give you some. Now, a daily journal doesn't mean you write in it every day, but it does mean you've got it handy. I wrote something from Bernard Shaw. People are always blaming their circumstances for what they are. He said, I do not believe in circumstances. The people who get on in this world are the people who get up and look for the circumstances they want, and if they cannot find them, they make them. Well said, Bernie. I'm flying from Madrid to New York. A spectacular view of Lisbon. As we left for New York, I couldn't see the Rock of Gibraltar. I kept searching for it and couldn't see it. I have just read the news. Steve McQueen is dead. We were the same age. My good fortune goes on. I hope to be as good at my craft as he was at his. And I wrote some things here about La Coruña in northern Spain. What an incredible place. Galicia. Keep your journal handy. Gather up the stories, your impressions, so that you can tell the stories of where you've been and who you've met and things you've read. Okay? Learn to be the teller of stories. It doesn't take much of a story. What was I trying to illustrate? Oh, we all need a little help. I was illustrating that one time. I said, I remember when I was a little bitty kid, the first day I decided I could ride a bicycle. I know I'm too little for my feet to touch the ground. But I thought, I can ride one of those things. I'm just little. I said, I just need two things. First, I need somebody to hold it so I can get on. Now that I'd figured out, because I couldn't figure out how I could get on it and get going by myself. But I said, if somebody's to hold it and let me on it and then give me a push, I could ride it. Right? I knew getting off was easy, right? Just fall off. I mean, that's easy, right? I've already learned that art. But I figured out if somebody held it, if I got on it and they gave me a push, I could ride it. So it doesn't take much of a story. Just be a storyteller. It'll get the point across. Okay? So be a gatherer of stories. Next, the art of persuasion is don't exaggerate. Correct handling of the facts. Nothing destroys credibility like a misuse of the facts. If it's 100, it's 100. If it's 500, it's 500. Make sure the numbers are correct and the facts are correct. Your meticulous sticking to the facts will make this credibility so strong. Okay, next, learn how to quote. Sometimes you can't say it quite as well yourself as someone else has said it. So be a gatherer of quotes and learn quotes that can help to illustrate whatever you're wanting to say. And quotes are also a good attention getter. Do you notice how, you're just going along in conversation and you quote something? People just listen a little better when you quote. You quote a poem or a sentence or a saying or something. It's really helpful in the art of persuasion, getting attention. It also shows you've done your homework. You are really interested enough in your subject to gather up the quotes on the subject. So use quotes. I have quotes, right, sprinkled throughout that whole evening seminar. One of them was, Benjamin Disraeli once said, "Nothing can resist a human will that will stake even its existence on the extent of its purpose." See, that's well said. Just learn the quotes, capture them in your journal, and then rehearse them and repeat them till they become part of you. And sure enough, you'll find all kinds of uses for the stuff you've captured and practiced. Captured and practiced. In Salt Lake City the other day, I was doing a seminar, and I was talking about the truth. And I remembered Churchill's quote, "The truth is incontrovertible. Malice may attack it, and ignorance may deride it, but in the end, there it is." See, that's well said. You could sit up all night and not think of that, right? I mean, that's good. Good quotes. So learn how. The quotes and the poems are just, you know, they're heavy. They're good stuff. Whether it's fun or whether it's serious, just learn all the quotes. Once in a while I use the one, when Judy and I parted, I'll tell you a little bit more about that tomorrow. When Judy and I parted about 5-6 years ago, the most incredible experience of my life was when I was married to Judy. But after we parted, I wrote her a little letter, and it was only a half a page long. But at that time, it expressed some unique thoughts that I had and feelings that I had. And it went like this. Dear Judy, as often as the night comes, so does my sadness. As constant as the day arrives, so is my love for you. I wish for you, and I wish the best for you, and I understand that dilemma. The mixture of both love and sadness startles me. My life is here where you touched me. If ever you should call, I will be there to be touched again. It was very brief, it was very short, but at the moment, it said what I wanted to say. And for a long time after that, I wouldn't quote it on an occasion like this. But finally, that experience has taken its rightful place in my life, and now I'm able to do it. But something you write yourself. You know, write it out and then rehearse it. If it sounds good, and then use it. Express yourself on paper. Then go over it till it takes root in your mind and your heart and starts to grow. And sure enough, daily in conversation, all kinds of occasions you'll have to quote something that you've written. Couple of verses of something. But use quotes. They're so good because some people have said it so well. And if you practice, you can say something so well that it'll get the point across. It'll cover the subject. It'll do the job. So quotes. Here's another one in the art of persuasion. Oratory. And if you're not, you know, involved in sort of speaking in public or to groups of people, you may not be so involved in oratory, but even in personal conversation, really public presentation is only an extension of personal conversation. That's how you practice your public presentation, personal conversation. Don't make one separate from the other. Be just as good a storyteller in person as you are on the platform, or as you are in public, or as you are to your office, or to your group, or to your salespeople, or your organization, or whatever. Be a good storyteller wherever you go. Learn how to get your point across one-on-one, just as important as one on a group. Okay? That way you get lots of practice, because we're always talking and visiting and chatting with people. But make it a practice session. Now, oratory is just saying something extremely well for just a little burst of time. I have a little bit of it in the evening seminar when I come to the disease of attitude called complaining. It's in there. When I say, spend 5 minutes complaining and you've wasted 5, and you may have begun what's known as economic cancer of the bone. Surely they will soon haul you off into a financial desert and there let you choke on the dust of your own regret. Now, that's just a little what we call a burst of oratory, right? It's just something well said, well put together, and you just use it. One is for attention, of course. One is to get the point across. One is to cover what you're trying to cover. Okay? But use it. Now, you can't do that for 30 minutes, right? You know, the attention span isn't that long, but oratory is good. Here's another part of the art of persuasion, straight talk. We've all used the expression. It's a good expression. Let's tell it like it is. Almost everybody's willing to say, level with me. Just let's tell it like it is. Straight talk. And we can all use straight talk. Here's the next one, challenge. Everybody responds to a challenge. So I'm not sure you can do it. I don't know. See, all you got to do is say that to me. Right? So I bet you can't make another $1 million in the next 6 months. How much we got riding on this, right? I mean, that's all I want to know, right? What is the bet? Hey, we all respond to a challenge. We all respond to doing something well, seeing if we can do it. I mean, since we were kids, right? Competition, challenge. I always go for that. Okay? Climbing the mountain. Going through the experience, becoming a better person, learning to talk better and walk better and look better, and lifestyle, affecting other people, developing personality. There's challenges everywhere. And if you're good at giving somebody a challenge, whether it's a small one or a large one, whether it's a small step or a long step, just challenge people to change, challenge them to grow, challenge them to buy, to decide, to try, to move. If you're good at challenge, you'll be good in the art of persuasion. The next one is learn how to paint pictures, words fitly framed together that describes something, that gives color to what you're trying to say, gives depth. It has several dimensions. Learn how to paint pictures with words. Okay. Part of the art of persuasion is taking people on a word journey. A journey of words, descriptions. Now, part of those pictures develop as you get older, as you get more experience in life. Part of that's just a growth process. It really is. One of Judy's boys, Bruce, when Bruce was about 12, we're up at the ranch riding the motorcycles up on the Jeep trail. And Bruce was pretty good at age 11, 12. Even on the big motorcycles, he was good. In fact, he was better than me, you know, climbing some of those hills. But I'm in the lead one day, right? And we're running the Jeep trails. I noticed this little clearing right through the trees where the trail made a little circle out, you know, along the side of the mountain. And the view was absolutely breathtaking. So I pulled up and stopped. I'm taking off my helmet. I'm looking at this view. It is spectacular. The colors, it's along about 5 o'clock in the evening, and the colors are gathering, and the valley below, this little river running through the valley, the cattle are down there grazing, the mountains in the distance, the colors, the trees, the mountains, it was just fantastic. And I'm drinking in this scene. And Bruce comes flying up on his motorcycle, right, up behind me, stops, gets off, takes off his helmet, he's pulling off his gloves, walking up where I am. And I say, Bruce, look at this view. Isn't this fabulous? And he takes a look, and he looks at his watch and says, we better get going, we're going to be late. And I thought, why doesn't this view affect him like it affects me? I'm stunned by the colors and what's happening. And then it dawned on me, he's only 12. See, when you're 12, you've only got 4 or 5 colors on your palette to paint pictures. You just don't have very many. But sure enough, as you get older, as you gather experience, you just get this better variety of colors on your palette, all kinds of shades of green and blue. The colors start to grow and change. Then if you get good at using all these colors to paint pictures in other people's minds, see, that's when things can really start to take shape. Learning how to paint pictures, how to get the ideas across, how to tell the stories, how to get to the heart of the matter. All of that is a matter of art, learning how, painting pictures. And last, in the art of persuasion, the greatest element in the art of persuasion is a passionate belief in something. We're all affected by people who passionately believe. Maybe it's an experience, or maybe it's a philosophical viewpoint, or political, or social, or something. These incredible people that have this unbelievable ability to feel strong, immensely strong about an idea, see, that'll affect everything else you do. A passionate belief in something. And probably the greatest illustration of this passionate belief and how it works in the art of persuasion is a story about Paul, the great leader of the early Christians, formerly known as Saul from Tarsus. After his conversion, he became a unique champion of the early Christian church. In fact, he had a nickname. They called Paul the Great Persuader. That's what they called him. I'm sure the story went around saying, if you don't want to be a Christian, here's a guy you don't want to get around. I mean, he's got this incredible story. If you get close to him, he'll put his story on you. And unless you're terribly strong, he'll get you. He's got this story. Not only does he have the story, but he's got this incredible ability to tell it. And sure enough, he must have been the great persuader. His reputation preceded him. The story says, unfortunately, one day he found himself in King Agrippa's dungeon. And they brought King Agrippa the news. They said, "Oh, King, you may not know it, but you got a fairly famous man in your dungeon." Agrippa said, "Pray tell, who have I got?" They said, "It's Paul. Paul, this leader of this Christian thing." Agrippa said, "How incredible." He said, "I'm curious. I'd like to hear his story." So the story said, he sent for him, and they got him out of the dungeon and stood him in front of the king, with the shackles on his feet and the chains on his hands, fresh out of the dungeon, stood him in front of Agrippa. Agrippa says, "Paul, I've heard about you and this Christian movement." He said, "Unfortunately, you find yourself in my dungeon." But he said, "I'm curious about this whole thing. What's going on here, this whole Christian movement?" He said, I'm curious. He said, "Why don't you tell me your story?" He shouldn't have asked, right? One of the greatest classic stories of ancient Scripture. One more time, with unbelievable eloquence, this unique man, formerly the persecutor, now the great leader, tells his story one more time. And he tells it so well, the story of his conversion, how he used to persecute the Christians, and now he's the leader, told about his conversion on this road to Damascus. And he tells his story so well. He winds it up by saying, "Oh, King, I wish you were just like me. Except for these chains, I don't wish that on you, fresh out of someone's dungeon. But the feelings, the conversion, being on this side versus that side, you can't believe what it's like." And once again, he told the story with such eloquence and such passion and such belief and with such detail that sure enough, it got the job done. The story says King Agrippa, after Paul finished his story, sent him back to the dungeon, but before he sent him back, he said, "Well, sir, I must admit, you have almost persuaded me to be a Christian." What a classic story. Somebody says, "How good can you get at this stuff?" You can almost get the king. I mean, that's how good you can get. And everybody else in between you and the king doesn't have a chance. Once you get good at the art of persuasion, telling your story, learning identification and logic and reason, learning to paint pictures and solutions, learning to give quotes and write your own, make this whole mixture of communication something that is a daily important part of your life. And sure enough, if you'll get good at it, as you can, very few people will be able to escape your influence, whether they're children or business people, family, friends, or people from distant lands. Communication, the art of persuasion. I wish it for you as much as I wish anything else for you.
Hello there, Darren Hardy here again. Now that you've completed Module 7, I hope that you'll become a master of the art of persuasive and effective communication. If you do, I guarantee you'll become a person of great influence, able to use your unique gifts to encourage and enlighten others. So, to help you achieve this goal, I'd like to send you off with another homework assignment. With the accelerated pace of business and life today, it's easy to believe that in order to stay competitive, we must move quickly and convey information and communicate with as many people as possible. Many of us, including me, communicate a lot, whether it's via email, text messaging, or on a number of social media sites. But what I'd like you to do is to take a step back and determine what relationships deserve a higher quality of communication. Have you become used to chatting with friends over Facebook or using text messages to catch up with your kids? Do you use email to share information with key employees or business partners? If so, I challenge you to stop depending on all the quick and easy opportunities technology provides and engage in good old-fashioned, face-to-face, heart-to-heart communication. Make a true connection by sharing the same physical space and sharing an experience together. This will allow you to sharpen your language and listening skills, and you'll be more aware of how your words affect others and how you represent yourself. It will also give you the chance to grow your relationships and lead a richer, more fulfilling life. Thanks for listening, and we'll meet right back here next week.